Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about 1099s and who needs to receive a 1099 and some things that you can do to prepare yourself for 1099 season. This video is coming out at the end of the year and this is a really good time to start gathering the information you need, not waiting to the very last second. I mean, ideally we would be doing this all throughout the year, and I do have a video about some tips to help you with 1099. So if you are having a hard time this year, definitely check out that video. I will make sure to link it in the description box below. But I want this video to be just a brief high level of who needs 1099s. And then we are also going to look at a decision tree that will sort of help decide. And as you go through, you can say who needs a 1099, who doesn't. And we're also going to talk about just preparing for 1099 season and what you need to do. So if that sounds good, if you are curious and you're here to learn, please stay tuned. I'm going to put a lot of resources in the description box below, so please go down there and click on those links because I am linking to great blog posts. I'm linking to other videos that we have, and they're going to give you lots of information around the 1099. So if you are in charge of doing this potentially for your business, you are going to want to make sure that you're well equipped and informed and that you're doing everything the right way. Before we go any further, if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, I would love to have you here as a subscriber. We are on our journey to 100,000 subscribers. We're getting very, very, very close. So I'd love to have you on that. Maybe you'll be the 100,000th. That would be super cool. I'm hoping to see that when it actually transitions over from 9999 to 100,000, but I'll probably miss it, let's be honest. But I would love to have you guys here. This channel is really all about helping small businesses be better with their finances and helping you achieve financial success. So whatever that looks like for you, because it can be different for different people, okay? But I'm here to help you along the journey. Let's go ahead and get into talking about 1099. So a 1099 is an information-only return that a company reports to the IRS to say that we have paid these monies to certain vendors or for certain services. And there's lots of different types of 1099s, but the two that are most common that small business owners really need to be aware of are the 1099 NEC, so it's 1099-NEC, and then the 1099-MISC. So a couple of years ago, it used to all be the 1099 MISC, but then they started this new NEC to separate the two a little bit further. And so the non-employee compensation used to be part of the miscellaneous, and now it's its own form. So it's kind of got its own spotlight now. So what we need to do as business owners at the end of the year is we need to determine who we need to issue a 1099 for. So the way that it works is that you actually send this 1099 form to those vendors that need one, and then you report to the IRS like all of the 1099s that you've issued during the year. And it is honestly I think it's an archaic process, but it is something that we still have to do for the IRS. They still want us to do this, so we still need to comply. If you did get audited and you didn't issue 1099s, it is possible that all of that money you've paid out to contractors or for rents and things like that could be disallowed. And so that is part of the reason why we need to make sure that we do these informational returns. Okay, first let's talk about high level. What is the 1099 MISC? So it stands for miscellaneous. That is a form that is due by February 28th, so it gives you a little bit more time. The other one we're going to talk about is due by January 31st. This one has got lots of different things that you would report on this, and some of them are a little bit random. I'm going to read them to you. So one is rents. So a lot of us are going to need to do a 1099 for a landlord. Let's say like I'm in a rented space right now. I will issue a 1099 to my landlord because of the other check the boxes, and that this person is a LLC, taxed as a sole proprietor. It's not a corporation, and so I will need to report that. So rents, prizes and awards, other income payments, medical and health care payments, crop insurance proceeds, cash payments for fish or other aquatic life you purchase from anyone engaged in the trade or business of catching fish. Generally, the cash paid from a notional principal contract to an individual, partnership, or estate, and payments to an attorney. Real quick on payments to attorney. This is not for attorney services. This would be gross proceeds paid to attorneys that are not reportable on the non-employee compensation. So this might be like a settlement agreement or something like that where a payment has been made. But if it's actually for services, attorney services, those will go on the NEC that we're going to talk about in a second. And also any fishing boat proceeds will also be reported on your 1099 miscellaneous. And I just think this is really funny. It's an entertaining form, personally. And then the 1099 NEC, that is due January 31st. Those forms are due January 31st. And those are a little simpler. It's basically just saying if you've paid anybody more than $600 for services performed by someone who is not your employee, and also includes parts and materials, or payments to an attorney. Again, payments to an attorney on services specifically. So really think about the NEC as like people doing labor for your business. So this will often be for things like CFO services, bookkeeping services, your IT, your outsourced IT, your outsourced HR, your outsourced attorney, clearly. We just talked about attorneys. This might be a contractor that you're using for a special project for a period of time. So the 1099 NEC is really all about identifying those people or companies in your business that are not employees, but they are doing labor for your business that potentially an employee could do, or maybe not. That doesn't really matter. It's just, is there some kind of service being rendered to your business? Not products, okay? So if you're buying something from a vendor and you're spending a lot of money with a vendor, but it's goods, then you don't have to worry about issuing a 1099. This is really all about services for the NEC specifically. So what I want to show you guys now is a very, very, very helpful flow chart. Now, I found this flow chart as I was looking for a very good graphical flow chart. I've seen a couple of these, but my good friend Nancy McClellan has an amazing blog called The Dancing Accountant, and she is the Dancing Accountant. She is amazing. And I'm going to show you that she has a really good blog post that I'm going to link in the description box below. I want everybody to go and look at it because it's extremely thorough when it comes to 1099s, and she's going to be more thorough and have that really good written advice that's going to be there, and you don't have to rewatch the video a bunch of times. So please go and check out that blog post. But on the blog post, she has a really great graphic that she has borrowed from bookkeepers.com, her friends at bookkeepers.com and Bookkeeping Buds. So shout out to all of those. Shout out to Nancy. I'm going to go ahead and show you this flow chart so we can see who do we need to issue a 1099 to. Before I show it to you, you need to have paid people over $600. This is specifically for non-employee compensation, okay? You need to have paid them over $600. You need to have paid them in cash, check, or ACH, or something very equivalent to that, like Zelle, for example. If you've paid them with a credit card, that payment is getting covered through a different type of 1099 that the credit card issues. So you don't need to worry about issuing that yourself. So if I paid my bookkeeper, for example, on my credit card every single month as a recurring payment, I don't have to issue a 1099 for that individual, even if I paid them more than $600. And then the next layer of filtering out is whether or not the vendor that you're using is a corporation or some other type of entity and not a sole proprietor. Okay, so if that's the case, and you would find that out based on the W-9. So if that's the case, if they are a corporation, then you don't have to issue a 1099, okay? So I'm gonna show you this flowchart, and it's gonna make a lot more sense because let's be honest, we all like to have a visual. Okay, here we are in Nancy's blog, The Dancing Accountant, and again, I am at the rules when to issue a 1099 form to a vendor, updated for 2023. Nothing has really changed from 2023 to 2024, so I feel safe going ahead and using this. Vendors providing services. We're gonna go through one at a time. Did you pay them more than $600? If you did not, then you do not need to issue a 1099 NEC. Okay, now we need to ask how we were paid. So if you did pay them more than $600, how did you pay them? Did you pay with a debit or a credit card, PayPal or similar? If that's the case, then no NEC is required. However, if you paid them with cash, check, or bank ACH, then you need to keep going. So you might have paid a vendor partially with credit card and partially with ACH or a check. If that's the case, then you would do another check and say, is it still the portion that I paid in cash or check or ACH? Is that still over 600? If it's not, then no NEC, 1099 NEC is required. But If it is, then you go to yes, and that's when you go and you look at the W-9 for the individual. So you need to get a W-9. Anybody that you've paid over $600, well, really, any vendor that you've paid anything to, you need a W-9 for. That should be a requirement before you pay anybody any money. Sometimes that doesn't happen though, so then at the end of the year, we look and we try to see, who have we paid over $600, and then we go and get W-9s from those. So if once you get that W-9, there's going to be a section that will be very clear. I'm going to show this to you right now because Nancy has it in her blog. Okay, so Nancy's been so kind as to snip out the section of the W-9 we need to look at here. So basically, you need to look at this, and if the entity that you have paid this money to is a corporation, if they have this C corporation, S corporation, or if they have limited liability and then C or S is here, that they're taxed as a C corp or taxed as a corporation, then you do not need to pay, or you do not need to issue a 1099 NEC for them, okay? So if they are a corporation, then they are exempt from getting a 1099 NEC, okay? Now the one thing about that is that there is an exception to the incorporation rule, and that's right here in the blog. It is about you still need to issue a 1099 to a lawyer or a law firm, regardless of whether they're a corporation or not. I don't know why. Maybe they're just not trusting lawyers. I don't fully get it, but that is something. So let's go back down to this decision tree here. So if the vendor is incorporated, if they are, then you do not need to file an NEC, 1099 NEC. But if they are not incorporated, then you prepare a form 1099 NEC. So any amounts, the amount of money that you've paid that vendor that was not on debit or credit, then that amount goes on to the reporting for the 1099 NEC, okay? So thanks so much to Nancy for those great resources. Please go and check those out in the description box below. So when you are doing your search for determining who you've even paid during the year, it can get a little clunky if you haven't been paying attention throughout the year and marking vendors as you've been adding them, or potentially going ahead and getting the W-9 before you pay them. So if you're using like a bill pay system, like a Bill or Maker's Hub, or you're using like something that is specifically for bill pay, sometimes they require a vendor to give you that W-9 information before they can get paid. Usually they do, like especially if you have them set it up. So that is really great. You probably already have that kind of information already stored, but if you've been manually doing your bill pay, you might be in a little bit of a challenge to go and now grab all of these W-9s from vendors if you haven't done that. But what you would do is you would actually pull your profit and loss for the year, and you would go through line by line through your P&L, and you would determine whether or not services would be in each one of those lines. And then you can click into the detail and start to identify who is a vendor, and then you can start to summarize how much you've paid each of these throughout the year. So this is a little bit of like a Excel project as you were going through. I mean, you can always use something like QuickBooks to look at like each vendor. You could look at the vendor section, but you really need to look to make sure that your transactions have been properly coded to a proper vendor to then go and report the proper amount for each vendor. So, look if you have something like accounting as a line item on your P&L, click into that and say, it looks like I have, my tax accountant, I paid, some fees to them, and then I paid for bookkeeping, and then I had that one-time CFO look over something in my business. And so all of three of those, if they're all over $600, then you need to look and say, and go through the decision tree and say, okay, yes, so it's over $600. Okay, well, of those, how much did I pay in cash? Oh, I actually put them all on the credit card. Okay, well, I don't even have to worry about those. But you're gonna create for yourself some type of Excel spreadsheet and then tracking, probably Excel, Google Sheets, whatever you use, but start tracking these vendors so that you can say, how much did you pay them, and do they need a 1099? Do you need to get a W-9 for them so you even know if you can get a 1099? The thing is that we don't know what we don't know, and you have to also have the W-9 is a request for taxpayer information. So there's no way you can guess whether or not somebody is a corporation or their tax is an LLC or their an LLC taxed as an S Corp. I mean, they might have Inc. at the end of their name, but you're not gonna know their EIN number and you're not gonna know their business address. So you need to have a W-9 so you can get all of that information. So you can figure out, do you need to issue a 1099, and then where do you need to send it to, and then you have the appropriate taxpayer identification numbers on there. So please make sure that you do a year-end review of all your financial accounts and you say, who did I work with this year, who did some work for me, and who did I pay, and go and step through that decision tree, and then you will be able to accumulate your list of people that you would potentially need to send a 1099 to. And now is a really good time to go and request those W-9s if you don't already have them, to get the taxpayer information. And then if you don't have them, then you can go and wait for those to come in, and then you can use something like Track 1099. There's a couple of online 1099 form systems that make it really easy to just do all your 1099s and send them electronically. You can send them as paper as well, but it's really, really helpful. I recommend doing it all digitally. Now the IRS is requiring any more than 10 1099s to be done electronically. It used to be a much higher number. I think it was like 250 or something like that. So definitely electronic is the way to go. I think it makes it simpler for everybody. So go and check that out. I hope that that was clear. Please let me know if you have any questions on 1099s and how to make this a little bit easier for you. I am here for you guys, and again, check out the resources in the description box because we have a lot more information there as well. All right, thanks so much for being here. If you made it to the end of the video and you found this helpful, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. All right, thanks you guys, bye.